To me, Global Reach Out is inspiring.
Is connecting with God, reaching out to the world, and impacting life.
The stories that are shared is so personal and it deeply impacted me.
Global Reach Out to me is reach out to the truth.
Connecting hearts, connecting lives. You're listening to Global Reach Out.
Hello friends, a very warm welcome from Global Reach Out.
Hello everyone. It's good to be back here. In our last session, we left off talking about the oppositions that Nehemiah faced and how he responded. In our session today, we will continue with the oppositions and learn effective leadership principles from Nehemiah. In the book of Nehemiah, we see the people at work. We have a directory list of names and all kinds of gates mentioned. And if you read the book of Nehemiah, oh, what a sight to see that every single one of them was working. The repair work was divided up by the 10 various gates, each assigned to certain leaders. For example, the sheep gate, the fish gate, the old city gate, the valley gate, and the dung gate. Nehemiah put the right people in the right places to work. The text lists specific men as builders of specific gates. He placed them in station according to their talents and made them build the portion of the wall in front of their homes. What a self-motivation for the builders, right? According to their talents and just right in front of their homes. Nehemiah sanctionized the rebuilding work among all the parties, all acting simultaneously. Each was responsible for his section. And did you know that even women helped to rebuild the walls? That's right. And that's why, indeed, women have a role in the ministry of God. What a beautiful picture of teamwork it is. Each one had a specific task to do. Each did what he was supposed to do. The only exception, of course, were the so-called nobles. Now, here are the Nehemiah principles of good organization. Let me read them out in bullet forms. Number 1, motivation without organization leads to frustration. 2, the strongest organizations are the simplest. 3, leaders love everybody, but move with the movers. 4, organizations establish clear lines of authority. 5, people do what you inspect, not what you expect. 6, leaders provide a supportive climate of trust and teamwork. Finally, successful organizations recognize and reward effort. As the people began the rebuilding project, they continued to face opposition from the outside. Sanballat, who was motivated by fury and jealous, tried to ridicule and discourage them. So just because the people were ready, it didn't just give them the success to the rebuilding. Sanballat made them doubt about their abilities to finish the work and also created disunity among them by using negative and disparaging words. And later, Tobiah, the Ammonite, joined in, teamed up with Sanballat to add fuel to the fire. Here's what it says in the book of Nehemiah. Sanballat flew into a rage and mocked the Jews, saying in front of his friends and the Sumerian army officers, "What does this bunch of poor, feeble Jews think they are doing? Do they think they can build the wall in a single day by just offering a few sacrifices? Do they actually think they can make something of stones from a rubbish heap and charred ones at that?" Tobiah the Ammonite, who was standing beside him, remarked, it's kind of like added in, "That stone would collapse if even a fox walked along the top of it." Their ridicule consists of several questions. Here they are. What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore things? Will they sacrifice? Will they finish it in a day? Will they be able to make something of stones from a rubbish heap and charred ones? That stone they are building, any fox going up on it would break it down. Now, these were discouraging remarks, weren't they? They could have demotivated anyone under normal circumstances. The question is, how did Nehemiah respond? Well, he prayed. That's right. He prayed. And this is how he prayed. "Hear us, O our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from their sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders." Wow. What a prayer against the enemies. But why pray? Well, because God answers prayers. That's right, my friends. When those insults could not discourage the people from stopping their work, because they couldn't, Sanballat and Tobiah, joined by some others, Arabs and Ammonites and Ashdodites, were raged with fury. And this time, they went one step further by plotting to raise arms against Nehemiah and the builders and to cause confusion. Not only did they claim that the builders would be killed, they would also not know how it happened. This is what Nehemiah says in the book of Nehemiah. He said this, "But when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabs, Ammonites, and Ashdodites heard that the work was going ahead and the gaps in the wall of Jerusalem were being repaired, they were furious. They all made up plans to come and fight against Jerusalem and throw us into confusion. Before they know what's happening, we will swoop down on them and kill them and end their work." You see, one of the pitfalls of a leader is his or her unmanageable anger and using so-called righteous anger as the license to make disparaging remarks about other fellow leaders' worth or work. And, my friends, we need to be aware of this. When his enemies issued threat, Nehemiah maintained spiritual and practical equilibrium and responded courageously. First of all, he prayed. That's right. He prayed. And then he planned. He said, Nehemiah said, I prayed, hear us, our God. But we prayed to our God and guarded the city day and night to protect ourselves. Nehemiah not only prayed to God, but he also did something by setting up guards to protect the walls for 24 hours. That's it, my friends. Pray, plan. Pray and plan. That's what Nehemiah did. That's how Nehemiah, as an effective leader, responded. So, I must say again, the first response and defense of a leader should always be prayer. Prayer should be the first resort and not the last resource. Live, my friends, live vengeance to God. A successful leader is someone that is not so heavenly minded, that is not so heavenly minded to be of no earthly use. This is reinforced by a well-known statement made by Oliver Cromwell. This is what it says. Trust God, keep your powder dry. Now, in addition, there was also a discouragement from within. That's right. Trouble is not just from the outside, but it is, and it is always, also from within. The people of Judah began to complain. They complained, saying, the workers are getting tired, and there is so much rubble to be moved, which is true. And they continue to say, we will never be able to build the wall by ourselves. The first internal crisis had to do with too much to do, but too little people to help. In other words, there was a lack of resources as well as the people were burned out. And the people began to fear the enemy's attack because they kept hearing this. They will come from all directions and attack us. They kept hearing, they will come from all directions and attack us. So well again, what did Nehemiah do as a leader? Nehemiah placed armed guards in the exposed areas and protected the families. And then he said to the people, he said this, don't be afraid of the enemy. Remember the Lord who is great and glorious, and fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. God will fight for us. What an encouragement. Nehemiah drew upon Israel's ancient holy war tradition. He assured them of victory because of a victor God. After Nehemiah's words of encouragement, we are told, he says, we worked early and late, from sunrise to sunset, and half the men were always on guard. And that's what Nehemiah said. Remember earlier we said, he did not just pray, but he prayed and then he planned. He did something. He put things in place. So in times of crisis, A great leader will seek to encourage the people not to be afraid, even if there is something or someone to be afraid of. Fear is always debilitating and lowers morale. We see faith and works in action, both spiritual and practical. They are like a hand and a glove. What a timeless lesson it is, isn't it? In the end, the workers were not attacked, nor did they have to fight at all. Question is, was it the result of prayer? Well, I believe it is, in addition to what Nehemiah set in place. But well, just when you think the crisis that came from the external is over, lo and behold, another crisis pops up. This time, it comes from the internal. The people faced economic problems because of 4 reasons. First, Judah was cut off commercially from the neighboring peoples. Second, the effort to rebuild the city walls resulted in a decrease of grain production since the farmers were staying back in Jerusalem. Number 3, climatic factors contributed to the famine. 4, the previous administrators had placed heavy burdens on the people. As a result, some had no money to buy grain. Some had to mortgage their property to buy it. And some had to borrow money to pay taxes to the Persian king. And the lending of money was at excessive interest rates and created an intolerable situation. Those who were unable to pay their loans, their children had to be sold to slavery. And that was the situation. But hey, my friends, this is not it. That's right. The issue becomes even more challenging for Nehemiah and the whole rebuilding project. And I will talk about it in the next session. Until then, you take care and goodbye for now.
And that's this week's episode of the Effective Leadership Program, brought to you by Global Reach Out. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.